Scripture records moments when God's voice changed history. Some of these shaped the world, and the one at the top of the list speaks directly to us. Here are 7 times God spoke directly. Starting off our list at number 7 is the creation. Before God ever appeared to anyone, before he wrote a commandment, before there was a law, a nation, or a name, God spoke. And when he spoke, everything that exists came into being. In the scriptures, it doesn't say that God struggled. What it does say is God said, and reality obeyed. God didn't create the world with his hands. He created it with his voice. Light didn't argue. Chaos didn't resist. When God speaks, creation listens. At number 6, God tells Abraham, "Go." Abraham wasn't a king. He wasn't a prophet yet. He was just a man living his life. When God spoke to him, not through a dream, not through a sign, God simply said, "Go." God said, "Go. Leave your country. Leave. Leave behind your people. And leave your father's household." God didn't give Abraham a map. He gave him a promise. "Go to the land and I will show you." And somehow that was enough. When God speaks, obedience begins with just one step. At number 5, we have Mount Sinai. God speaks to a nation. This time, God didn't speak to just one man. He spoke to an entire nation. Israel gathered at Mount Sinai, and the mountain itself shook. Thunder rolled, lightning flashed, smoke covered the peak. This wasn't a quiet moment. This was a holy one. And the people of Israel that were gathered at the mountain, they were terrified. And scripture says the sound of a trumpet grew louder and louder. And Moses, well, he drew near, while everyone else stepped back. Then God spoke, not through a prophet, not through a dream, with his own voice. And the 10 Commandments were given before they were written on stone tablets. Law wasn't invented by man. It was spoken by God, and a nation heard it. If y'all are enjoying the countdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and share to keep spreading the kingdom. God bless. At number 4, we have God calls Samuel. Most people think hearing from God is dramatic. Thunder, fire, a booming voice from heaven. But for Samuel, it started in the middle of the night. A voice calling his name, and he didn't even realize it was God. But it's not about what God said. It's about Samuel recognizing who's speaking. 3 times Samuel runs to Eli, thinking it's him. But most people miss this part. Samuel didn't know the Lord. He didn't recognize his voice even though God was speaking. And honestly, that's where a lot of people are. Eli finally tells him, if he calls again, say this, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And God speaks, clearly and directly, not with comfort, but with truth. Because when God speaks, it's not always to reassure. Sometimes it's to prepare you. Samuel wasn't chosen because he was important. He was chosen because he was listening. And the question isn't whether God is speaking to you today. It's whether we slowed down enough to recognize his voice. Making it into the top 3, we have This Is My Son, Jesus' baptism. Jesus hadn't preached a sermon yet. He hadn't performed a miracle. He steps into the water, and when he comes up, heaven opens. This isn't symbolism. This isn't subtle. God is about to speak. But first, The Spirit descends, not in fire, not in judgment, but like a dove. This moment doesn't end here. It sets everything in motion. And then a voice from heaven says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." No confusion, no debate. God identifies him clearly. Before Jesus does anything, the Father tells the world who he is. Not servant, not teacher, Son. But not everyone would accept what God just declared. God didn't wait until the resurrection to tell us who Jesus is. He said it out loud, right at the beginning. Before the cross, before the miracles, before the crowds. This wasn't a reward, it was an identity. God said it clearly at the river, but on a mountain he will say it again and make it even louder. And speaking of that mountain, at number 2 we have the Transfiguration. Some moments with God don't happen in a crowd. They happen on the climb. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up a mountain, just the 4 of them, and the disciples have no idea what they're about to see. And then it happens, right in front of them. Jesus is transfigured. His face shines, and his clothes turn brilliant white. And then Moses and Elijah appear, talking with him. The law and the prophets, standing right next to Jesus. And Peter does what Peter does. He starts talking. He's like, "Lord, it's good we're here. Let's build 3 tabernacles." But while Peter is still speaking, a bright cloud overshadows them, and a voice speaks from the cloud. "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." They fall face down, terrified. Here's the part that hits. God doesn't tell them to listen to Moses. He doesn't tell them to listen to Elijah. He says, listen to Jesus. So the question isn't whether Jesus has authority. It's whether we're actually listening. Taking our top spot, we have Revelation. God speaks to the world. Before Revelation ever talks about judgment on the world, Jesus starts with a warning to his own church. 7 churches, 7 messages, and every one of them begins the same way. I know your works. This isn't distant. This is personal. Some had abandoned their first love. Some compromised with the culture. Some were spiritually asleep, thinking everything was going to be fine. And Jesus doesn't speak with rage. He speaks with authority and concern. These weren't words meant to condemn. They were warnings meant to correct. Because judgment doesn't begin with the world. It begins in the house of God. Revelation isn't just about the end of the world. It's about the patience of God before the end. Scripture says he stands at the door and knocks, not forcing it open, not shouting it down, knocking. The warning isn't that judgment is coming, it's that mercy is still available. The door is still open, but it won't stay open forever. From the very beginning, God has never been silent. He spoke creation into existence, he called ordinary people by name, he shook mountains, and when the time came, he spoke clearly about his Son. The question was never whether God speaks. The question was always whether we were willing to listen and respond. Because every time God spoke directly, it required a decision. Think about and comment which moment stood out the most to you and why. More countdowns are on the way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and go out and keep spreading the kingdom. God bless.
There's no me in kingdom, and the clock is ticking, so go out and bring others to the crown.